What we're going to do today, we're going to make what's called a Duchess, which is a classic French preparation. Back in the day, it was used for a lot of things. It was used for a lot of garnish. When they used to do silver service style back in France and in Europe and places like that, they would often pipe this mixture of potato on a platter, and it would be a way of keeping sauce on the plate and so on. That's actually the Duchess mix, but there is actually a potato dish called Duchess. It's not very popular nowadays. Possibly for a function, it's quite handy because it's something that can be pre-done and then just lifted onto the plate during your service. And then we're going to do an extension of that, and that's called a pomme marquise. And that's just slightly, we make a little nest shape and we fill it with a tomato concasse. So the first thing we need, now I've just made a mashed potato, I don't need to show you how to mash potato, but what I will say, a couple of key points. When you've boiled your potato, or steam is preferable because you want as little moisture as possible, but that's not always possible. So just, if you boil them, that's fine. When you strain them in the colander, put them back into the pot and put on a light, low heat on the stove, and you just see the steam coming off, and that'll be them dried out enough. And then you must pass them through either a mouli, which you may have at home or not, or a potato ricer. And failing any of them, just mash it by hand with a masher and then put it through a flour sieve. But you must get it very fine, you can't have any lumps in it, alright? So the key there is we're looking for dry texture, not moisture, and a nice fine mash. So which is what I've got here. Now this is the kilo of potato mash. So what I'm going to do is make one mix, and we'll do some Duchess and some in marquise. So what you're going to need simply is a potato, or your potato. You're going to need a piping bag. It's a size 9 tube in it. It's not set in stone, but about that size. You need a pastry bush, and that's really it, and a baking tray. So I've got my mash. I'm going to add in my butter. Actually, I'll melt the butter because it's a little bit
firm.
So I've got some nutmeg that's pre-grated. You can get fresh stuff and grate yourself if you wish. That is a signature part of this dish. It's got that flavour to it. And I got 3 egg yolks. Just going to add them in. I'm going to use a whisk, so I want to try and get a nice soft texture to it. So I have my butter, chef. You can see that nice. Always make sure the potato as well when you cook them. Never refresh a potato. Some people will suggest that you do, but you never do it because it holds moisture and it becomes soapy. So if you're going to do it even for a potato salad, drain it and let it cool down. You never refresh it in water. Another variety that I think of that is common here is called a chat potato, which are the small little baby ones which you see. A lot of restaurants and hotels would use them because they're easy for portion control. 1 or 2 or 3 per serve and so on. So there's my mash. 1 kilo of mashed potato, 3 egg yolks, a pinch of nutmeg, I think about 50-60 grams of butter. Now, very important, salt and potato, very important. And let's see.
Is that ground white pepper?
It's actually ground white pepper, yes. We don't use black because it'll give little black marks through it. Alright, so we got our mash. So for a concasse, I'm going to cook one. So I sweated off some shallots, added my diced tomato, cook it down with a bit of garlic. I'm going to add some chopped parsley to it, and I'm going to mix that around.
So where's that going in this dish?
That's going to be for the marquise. So I'm going to split this mix between the 2 dishes. One is our Duchess. Now the brilliant thing about potato, especially for a young chef starting out, it's great for practicing your piping. So cream piping or whatever, it's all the same technique, alright? So it's great, but what you can do, you can pipe it, you make a mess, you put it back in the bag and do it again. You can make up a kilo of mashed potato at home for a few dollars and spend an hour or so long, just keep piping and piping and piping, practicing shells or squirrels or whatever it is you want to do. So I'll take a piping bag, just fill a piping bag, fold it down over your hand, and then put the mix in, and you can use your hands to scoop it off like that. You can as well, it's not to overfill it.
Just moving back to that mix, is that warm? So is it better, easy to warm it up?
Just before we came on, we just mashed potato. So potato is drained, as I said, then we put it through a mouli, so it's still nice and warm. So we need to add in our butter. Be careful with your eggs. As soon as you add your egg, you need to beat it in, because the eggs will actually cook and coagulate. You don't want that.
When we're doing our practicing, can we just slightly warm it up in the microwave if it goes too hard to pipe?
Absolutely. So as I say, you can make up a kilo of mash, you can leave it and come back to it tomorrow and just heat it up. So you can practice doing things like shells that you might do on a cake, or you might practice doing whatever it is. It's a great medium to do that. And you just put it back in, just keep reusing it. So it's good for that. Now, so for our Duchess, you can't see it, but I've drawn little circles here. I've done 4 little circles, and they're 4 centimeters apart. So a Duchess potato classically is 4 centimeters wide and 5 centimeters high. Now the mistake a lot of students make is they'll start piping it and it'll end coming up into a spiral like a triangle or a pyramid shape. It's meant to be the same 4 centimeters at the bottom, 4 centimeters at the top. It's actually quite a technique to learn, so it's a good way to practice. So when you're piping, if you're assuming if you're right-handed or left-handed, that's the way you do it. You'll never hold a piping bag like this and squeeze from the bottom. Always squeeze from the top. Have it nice and tight in the palm of your hand, using your fingers to press, alright? This hand is only for guiding. You never squeeze with that. So I've got my little disc there. Around. Like that. So as you can see, it's the same width at the top as it is at the bottom. Right? Just turn and twist it again so it's nice and tight.
So that last, or towards the top there, you just pull that in and just cover over that.
So yeah, because you've got to turn around and you just fill it in the top section. Right? Again, pushing down. Right. Again, pushing down. So let's say if you've got a function for 100 people, you can just do up 100 or 110 is what we do, and then just straight onto your plate and it's going out. So it's great for that sort of stuff. It won't be really an a la carte or a cafe style potato dish.
You wouldn't see that very often in a...
It's a classic potato preparation. It's good to know. As I say, years ago there used to be a scallop dish you'd see in a lot of French restaurants, and they use a scallop shell. They pipe the potato around it, and then they put in a nice scallop in a mornay sauce and possibly glaze it on the salamander. That was very, we would call it old fashioned now, but very classical back in the 70s and 80s. So refill it again, pull it down over your hand. So Duchess, 4 centimeters wide, 5 centimeters tall. I'm going to do marquise, pushing it down. Marquise is slightly different. We do it in a nest shape. Now it's not round, it's to be oval shape. We just start, put a little bit like that, which is form our base. We just go, it's going to be like a nest. Alright? Just do a little bit of the base. And when this goes in the oven, because of the egg yolk that we have in the potato, it's sort of form it. Crust up.
Souffles a little bit almost, does it?
Well, that's right. What happens is we push it with egg before we put it in the oven. And you get like a crust on the outside, but it's really soft on the inside. Right, again, pushing down, twisting. So you haven't once seen you squeeze with my left hand. So nice oval shape, not circular. Alright. Now, so these could probably be a little bit higher, but we're not going to. It's not, again, it's more about the preparation of the potato mix. So I'm going to refresh. Steam preferably. If you don't steam, you need to drain it in a colander, put it back on the stove to get the steam. Maybe put a tea towel over it to get that steam out of it, that moisture out of it. Then through a mulling, potato ricer, or a flour sieve. Very important that we get that nice fine. We don't want lumps of mash in there because you wouldn't be able to pipe it and it'd be just horrible. You need to add to a kilo of potatoes, 3 egg yolks, and pinches of nutmeg and then salt and pepper to taste. And that's your preparation there. So the marquise then, just take our concasse, just put it in there in the middle like that, nice and neatly. And you can just use raw tomato if you wish, diced up. I like to cook it down, just get a little bit more flavour. And then when you're eating the potato at the end, it's just got that little bit more depth. Not too much, alright? Now, I've got an egg yolk, not a whole egg, just the egg yolk. Make sure it's well beaten. Just turn it over now. Just dab it. Don't be pushy, because what happens is you'll take the shape off the potato. Just like a dab.
You actually need soft hands. I always have problems with this one. Soft hands, just a very light brush.
A good tip is to let it sit for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Then the starch in the potato will start to firm up, and you'll have it a bit easier. Just dab it. You can see the egg wash just running down. You could cook these if you wanted into a little muffin tin, if you wanted like a little cakey shape to it, and it would sort of set. You could lift out. But the key is to get the mix right.
My brain's going 100 miles an hour thinking all the cool stuff that we could actually do with that potato mix.
Absolutely.
Or how we could serve that.
Absolutely.
With some other goodies.
Well, we can make little potato cakes out of it. A small bit of flour to it if you wanted, or just as it is like that. You could add some raw grated potato into it. Do like a hash brown with it. Potato is very important, and it's pretty important to understand how to use it. So never refreshing. Try as best as possible to dry out. You're not looking for soap, you're always looking for that floury sort of texture. Well, in some preparations. You think of potato salad, and say, think of a kicked up potato has a beautiful texture to it. Alright? So there you all now. Fairly simple, but you will find when you start to do it, you'll be doing all sorts of shapes. So that's fine. Pick it up, put it back in your bag, and do it again, just practice. Again, you can leave it mashed, put it in the fridge, take it out tomorrow, put it in the microwave, soften it. If you hot your bacon, it's got everything in there, you can soften it, then you can continue fighting. Alright, so I'm going to pop them in the oven now. It'll probably take about, I'd say about 8 minutes. I've got it about 180. We've had about 10 minutes in the oven. Now, I didn't tell you, I started at 180 just to get that nice little, just to get it set, start to cook. And then I'll crank it up to 220 for the last 3 or 4 minutes. Try and get that bit of colour on it. And I'll say so myself, they're perfect. So again, as we discussed, if you could envisage a function going on in a large hotel or function centre, and there was a whole class doing out maybe 100, 200, 300 plates, that'd be a perfect dish.
Nice colour on them.
One person just go beautiful onto the plate. Alright. So that'd be really where you see it most. It's not something that really have in a restaurant cafe.
Well, like you said before, those nice big functions, 1,000 people.
That's right.
You'd smack them out with you.
You know exactly 20 on a tray, how many trays you need, things like that. So as you can see, that's pomme duchesse, pomme marquise. I think they're in the assessment.
I was going to say, for the assessment, they need to make that potato mix and then create that marquise, don't they?
Right. So obviously you guys can't feel it, but it's still got a nice crisp on the outside. It's got that soft on the inside. Don't have that. Now, so you don't want to go too big. Any bigger than that, it's just too much. So pomme duchesse is the mix, that pomme duchesse is the actual dish, and then pomme marquise, which is an extension of pomme duchesse. Key points, guys: use the right potato. Here in WA, I would recommend to use the royal blues. Either steam them preferably, or boil them, and then if you do boil them, you must drain them and dry them out in the pot with a tea towel on them. You must put it through a muley, a ricer, or a sieve. So they're your key points. And then to a kilo of potatoes is 3 egg yolks. You have your recipe then, and then you just have your concasse, which can be raw or cooked, whichever you wish. And again, you can change that filling if you wanted. This is a classic dish, but you put mushroom duck salad in there or something, which would be lovely as well. Alright, so that's our first potatoes.